Jim, I'm
Let's
sorry.
get sharing.
I love you.
Just You've been very rude to me. You're very rude.
If y'all only knew what just happened, if the viewers only know, Nate's over here starting World War III over here 5 seconds before we go on.
I am absolutely doing my best to.
Yeah.
So how do you share this? How do you share this so fast, Mike?
Oh, well, I haven't done it yet, but thanks for putting me on the spot. Let me see here.
I can't even find it. Are we live? I can't even find it.
There we go. We're live. We're on.
There we go.
No, like every single time, like I'm like scrambling as fast as I can.
It's been a fun weekend, boys. A lot of stuff in the pool world.
Oh, it's a lot of stuff. Yeah. I'm gonna mute that so it doesn't. So we have the breaking news. The big breaking news. We're going Dennis versus Shane, part 4,386, and that's kind of taking the pool world by storm right now. Shane jumped on a plane, I believe, yesterday, and he's on his way down to South Carolina to take on Dennis. What do we think about that?
He didn't need long to think about it, did he?
No.
He was straight on it. Yeah. I think the two of them are becoming friends now, aren't they? They spend so much time together.
They're making money together. They're gambling against each other. You know,
I know,
and I think before part one there was a genuine like disdain, and because I've heard it from Shane himself. He'll say, "I'll never do any business with Dennis. I'll never let him earn a dime off of me and none of that shit." And I think after the first one, the level of respect between them definitely was bridged a lot. And I think it's good for the game. I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoy when players genuinely dislike one another. Because I think it adds, especially for whenever you're playing for money. But no, they definitely got a lot more respect these days. But I mean, kudos to Shane, stepping up at the last minute to go and play Dennis. But I don't know, man. Bar table 9-ball, watching pros, that's tough. And I love watching pool.
Bit of a
that's
joke.
tough.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me a bit if one of these players ran a 15.
Well, but I mean, like, you can't go and ask Dennis to play Shane bar table 10-ball because Sky beat Dennis and then Shane just smoked Sky. So
yeah.
Well, I texted Shane finding out why they're not playing 10-ball, and I didn't get a response back yet, but I have to assume that it's because Dennis doesn't want that action.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, one thing about Mike and them is that they don't mind putting on an exhibition, but like if they present it as an exhibition, this is not. So they're presenting it at, for sure. Yeah, they're gonna. It's at a minimum 10 a man. I don't know all the details because it just came out last night, but at a minimum it's 10,000 a man, and I'm sure there'll be more. But I mean, it's tough because Shane's got a real good history on the bar table, and last time we saw Dennis playing on the small table, he gets. I mean, it was a battle with Sky, but he lost. And it's pretty awful, man. You go and lose like at least 60,000 in the middle, and then probably another 40 on the rail betting Sky. You want to play the game again. Your backers want to play the game again, and then for this to kind of go and happen, it's kind of, if you're Dennis, you got to be sick to your stomach. So, no, what can you do?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. It's so wow, look who decided to show up. What's up, man?
Hey, Rob.
He must have just woke up.
Can you hear us, buddy?
Apparently he doesn't want to talk to us. He must be bitter at us. Must be mad. That's okay. All right, so
the thing I found funny is I saw the poster for it on Facebook. And also on Shane's post, and they had to specify in it. I mean, they're using a template, they're using a magic rack or whatever, and they had to specify in it the balls must be frozen. This just, for me as a European, gambler, we never have these things about the rack and stuff like that. You just go and you set them up, you stick them together, everybody just racks them tight, and then you go ahead. And it just made me laugh that this has to be something that has to be put as a rule when in fact it is a rule of the game anyway. That would be like me challenging Nate to a match, and then specifying that you have to use the cue ball in order to pot other balls. You know?
Well, I mean, like, what do you think?
It just makes me laugh every time I see it. It's like, you have to rack them tight. Well, of course you have to rack them tight. Why do you even have to have this conversation? I mean,
to be fair,
is it gamesmanship though? I mean, is it gamesmanship, or is it just like, to me, I think the rack is as much a knowledge as any other skill in pool. Because if you're going to allow the guys to go and do it, don't be mad at them because they know how to do it well.
Yeah, but and this is where my viewpoint on it differs from, I think, the mentality in the States. You guys almost see it as a skill to know how to leave gaps in the rack. When for me, when the rule states, and it states in 9-ball rules, the world rules for 9-ball, and for the balls must be racked as tightly as you possibly can get them. Now, if a natural gap appears and you can't do anything about it, that's fine. But creating your own gap, which is what you're talking about, is cheating.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to push back on you, Jim, because I mean, in the world rules, I'm sure that's different, but in the rules that we play by in the U.S., which for the most part is not the world standardized rules, that's
another issue. That's another issue.
Yeah. Well, now we're at a million.
The reason for using a template is to guarantee that the balls are stuck together, or
to give them its best effort too, right?
Well, if it's a shitty template rack, it's a shitty template if the balls aren't stuck together.
Tell them the truth. Tell them how you really feel, Jim.
Yeah, well, it is. Yeah. If the balls don't just fall together, it's a shitty template. Get another one. Yeah. You know, and to actually then to go in there and try and make a gap somewhere, that for me is it just blows my mind that this is a thing.
You'll see them all, whether it's 10-ball or 9-ball. They're all doing funny things. I revert back to the Texas Open because every year during the player meeting, they're always saying, "Look, I don't know what they're doing to that one ball, but whatever they're doing, it ain't happening here." So they don't want them messing with that one ball at all. So, but I mean, like in all fairness, though, this is gambling, so it's not a tournament. I can see it like on a tournament.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, but then if it is an issue and both players have agreed that all balls should be frozen, it shouldn't take much for them to get an independent referee to turn up for 3 days and rack the balls for them.
Yeah,
you could pick somebody out of the crowd to do that.
You could do it using a template rack. You literally could just pick somebody out of the crowd, show them a couple of times how to do it, where to push the balls to get them to sit nicely, and it'll work every single time.
Look, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want that pressure. Like, I mean, like, and imagine if it gets tight. Like, I'd be there, you know, shaking to go and get the balls all frozen together myself, you know.
But it's not difficult to do. I mean, if you're having to do it in a wooden rack and you're really trying to get them in and you're seeing when you think, "Oh shit, I can't leave that gap, that's not good for him," and he won't like that. But in a template rack, you throw them in, they sit, they're done. Unless it's a shitty template.
Yeah.
No, I can't argue with that. So really quickly before we jump into why this match is happening, we can give a shout out to Brett and Mac Attack and Lil Chris, Claire, Joey, Ryan. Thank you guys for tuning in and partaking in the chats. So I guess I'll say why this is happening, and Mike, you can jump in and tell me at any point in time if I'm an idiot and getting this wrong. Shane, basically, so the match basically after Carlo and Sky, my understanding is Sky's backers got some cold feet and didn't want to post the money to have the match with Dennis happen. So they pulled out the money behind Sky. And at that point in time, Sky had the option to either put up his own and play Dennis or back out as well. He decided not to play the match because he didn't want to post his own. I don't blame him. And next thing you know, Shane was asked to see if he would come down and play the match. He jumped on the ship right away and off he goes. So any part about that's not right, Mike?
Well, you know what? You just put it all out there.
Well, I think it's. I mean, I'm not saying that. I'm not. That's just what happened, right? I'm not throwing a spin on it. I'm not trying to like crap on anyone. I'm just, that's what happened, and I think it's fair to say that.
Do we know if the backers pulling out was based on his performance against Carlo?
I don't know that.
To my understanding, yeah. Because I mean, it has to be, because otherwise, Sky beat Dennis last time. So why the hell wouldn't they go and run it again? If it was just based off of that game, then you're running it back 100%. No one If that backer's that nitty to where they won't do it based off of, the last match, then that's ridiculous. They'll probably never get action again. But it has to be because of what happened between Sky and Carlo. And I mean, I know I heard it a little bit in the commentary, about half-assing some shots, a lack of effort, a lack of focus, whatever you want to call it. And I don't want to. I gotta like tread lightly here because I'm a sponsor with them, but at the same time I got integrity too, but the thing is that that's one thing about Mike and them. They're saying it's a gambling match. If anyone's got any questions as to its authenticity, this right here shows you that it's on the level. Because if it wasn't, they would have just pushed forward and had it be an exhibition, and no one would have been none the wiser. So this just shows you, what kind of integrity that those guys have as far as how they go and what they're presenting to your computer screen or your phone screen or whatever. But yeah, I mean, Sky didn't look all that great at times. I mean, at times he looked great, but his lack of focus was pretty evident. He missed a lot of balls he shouldn't have. I know whenever I heard the player interview at the beginning, Sky had said he really hadn't been playing much since the last time. Yeah, well, that's true. But I mean, listen, if you're putting up 10,000 and your guy goes and says, "I really haven't been playing much," I mean, are you gonna go and fire another 10 or 20 at him a week later?
After he lost the last 2 in a row.
Yeah. And it's one thing if he goes and he says, "You know what? I've been warming up for, 10 days straight." And again, I don't know whether or not Sky did or not. I don't know if that was just Sky being Sky whenever he said that in the interview. But it's certainly the optics didn't look good. I'll say that. But yeah, Nate just went right for it. Didn't just
I mean, at the end of the day, like, I mean, unless Sky's going to come out and say that something else happened, I mean, it's not hard to draw the line, right? So if you think about it analytically or even critically for 15 seconds, you're going to see that Sky lost his last 2 matches in a row. And you're going to see the performance that he put out was not good against Shane. I mean, Shane blew his doors off. I mean, Shane played great. I mean, there's nothing that really Sky could do in that match besides, just dig deep and find a gear that he's never found before. But yeah, I mean, you can look at the Carlo match, and his break was not doing him much justice, and he was struggling with, just potting kind of simple balls. I mean, at the end of it, I mean, I think at the beginning of the match, so at the beginning of the match, like the first 20 games or something like that, Sky had 8 unforced errors. That is insane. Now, you could have some pre-match jitters. You could have...
Listen, man, that man's been a Mosconi Cup MVP. He's been on the biggest of stages that the sport has allowed. Don't give me that shit about jitters, man. That's lack of preparation. Just say what it is. I mean, because don't tell me that stage at Bills in Oklahoma is bigger than a Mosconi Cup stage where he's been poised under pressure, where he's processed that to the fullest.
The thing is, if you go into a tournament or if you go into a big match like that and you feel yourself that you're underprepared, then that will itself give you the jitters, because you're almost going in there not actually knowing how you're going to play and being worried about what level you're at, when you're going into a big match like this. And that can get you a bit nervous and a little bit, I really don't know, I really don't feel it early in the match, and you start to maybe just worry about it a bit and get a bit panicky, and that can make you a bit jittery, regardless of what the arena is you're playing in, kind of thing. If you yourself don't feel as if you've prepared correctly, then it's going to affect how you play.
Well, let me jump in here because I think it does matter the arena that you're in, and I think it matters in the arena you're in just because when he was playing the rest of his matches, he was playing on a bar table, right? I mean, how hard is it to get yourself in stroke on a bar table? I mean, I'm not trying to I can't run out 2 balls in a row on a bar table, so I'm not gonna, But the idea is if you're going unprepared into a match and you're playing on a bar table, you can shoot yourself into a stroke so much easier than if you're on a big table with tight-ish pockets. And I think that's a lot of what the misses could have been from Sky was with Carlo, was he's playing on a bar table or a big table now instead of a bar table, and those little playing to the outsides of the pockets on those deep shelves, those balls aren't going to fall like they are from an extra 2 foot away, where they will fall on a bar table when you're 2 foot closer to the pocket. It takes an extra level of accuracy. I don't know.
But then you gotta give the match and the player the respect that it deserves, and or I mean, at least go, because whenever this happens, then it doesn't look good. If Sky's joking around and he wins by 30, no one's going and saying a peep. But you go and lose the manner in which you lost, and then you have this happen afterwards on your for the next match you had scheduled where you beat the guy for 6 figures. I mean, it's brutal, man. I mean, pool is tough. I mean, but kudos to Mike and them for scrambling. I know we've seen a lot of Shane and Dennis, but if there's one thing to be said, I mean, I love seeing it, but bar table 9-ball is just a little tough for me for pros. Like, that's just my own thing with it,
Yeah, we're getting a lot of amazing things out of the chat room right now. I think Jason Shaw says, he agrees completely, and he agrees with you, Jim. Jessica Westbrook, I think this is an interesting point that would be something to talk about. The venue, Bills, only sold 15 VIP seats for this. If they can't, like, I don't want to talk. Well, I know that they're posting up about minimum of 10K to get this match at each of these bars. If they're posting 10K with these matches there, and they're selling 15 VIP seats, simple math says that they are losing their butts just off of bringing that in. Of course, you're gonna make up a little bit of it at the bar, but the idea is if you would normally run, let's say, $10,000 on an average weekend making for money, and you're bringing in a match like this, you're not expecting to make 10,000. You're hoping to make a lot more than that. But if you're losing all of your money posting up to get this match here, and then you're barely making it up, what's the point of bringing the match in? Like, I don't know what we need to do as far as, making these venues feel like they're getting a good investment out of bringing these players in. I mean, maybe it's just you got to support it a little bit better. I don't know. Does anybody have a thought on that?
It's hard to go and bark at the fans for not putting up. They've seen Sky go and play a lot. Bills by himself has put on a lot of matches. You're hitting guys over and over and over again in a short amount of time, which is a great thing for us at home, but it's tough for those guys who are trying to go and charge $150 a seat. On top of that, you have APA going on in Las Vegas right now, so you got to assume that there's a lot of players out there from that area, and then you got BCA coming up right afterwards. So people are holding their money for that. So I think there's a number, and not only that, but I don't think your average pool fan knows who Carlo Biado is. I love Carlo. I love his game. He's a monster. He's a top player in the world. I mean, like in that very, very top stratosphere for me. But the average pool fan doesn't know who he is. The average pool fan knows who Sky is because they've seen him on the Mosconi Cup, but Sky's coming off a loss on top of that. So I think it was just the perfect storm. But you're right. I mean, I don't know any of the financials, but I'd be willing to bet a lot of money that he lost a lot of money on this match. But it happens sometimes. I mean, they're not always going to be Shane and Dennis. But I've been at Bills where it was packed. I've been to Bills where it was in the middle of COVID, and that thing is standing room only. So I mean, it's
a bit of a shame. It's a bit of a shame that it has to be Shane and Dennis for anyone to make any money out of it.
Well, I agree with the chat room. I think Jason and Dennis is a match I would love to see. Big table 10-ball.
Well, Jason's got to get on. Jason's got to get on the bar box now. Then he's got to start picking off some big names on the bar box now that he's a bar box champion.
He's Americanized now.
He's Americanized. What have you done? What have you done to my fellow Scotsmen? You can't go getting these Europeans playing bar box. You'll ruin their games. Oh God!
We need all the help we can get, Jim.
Well, just a hypothetical, like one question or one word answer to this. And we'll start with Rob because I'm pretty sure he doesn't exist at this point. Dennis and Jason play each other, race to 100 on big table 10-ball. Who wins? One word answer. What you got, Rob?
Dennis.
Jim?
Jason.
What was that? Wait a minute. Go back to Jim.
That was him wanting to say Dennis, but not wanting to upset his friend. That's what that was.
No, I wanted to say, does Jason get 3 weeks to get into stroke?
Jason's been playing more than you think he has, I think.
Tomorrow he gets beat. 3 weeks from now, Jason doesn't turn up for a match like that and turn around and say, "I haven't played much the last couple of weeks." I can promise you that. I can promise you that. If Dennis wants to go up against Jason and gives him 3 weeks to get ready, then Jason beats him.
Mike, what do you think?
Jason.
My one-word answer, it's a tie. No, Jason. I like Jason in that. I think it's breaks good. All right, so that's a fun little thing. So let's I guess we can talk about that. We've already been kind of discussing the match between Carlo and Sky already, but I mean, is there any other things that stand out? I mean, I agree. It didn't really look like Sky was quite prepared from what I saw, and I think it's because you don't have to be. Sky is so damn talented at this game that he doesn't have to be ready to play on a bar table. He can literally set his alarm clock at 2 a.m. after getting completely hammered the night before, and I don't know, chop off an arm, and he's still going to run out from everywhere on a bar table. That's just not going to work on a big table. I think he has to be a little bit more prepared than what he was, and he's too good to roll over and die. I mean, but I think you just got to be more prepared for that if you're going to put a huge, a real challenge out there for a world champion. And I just don't think we saw that. So does anything else stand out for anyone else?
I don't know, man.
Go on, Mike.
No, I think Carlo ain't the guy you don't get prepared for. Carlo is not the player you do not go and work your ass off ahead of time to go and be ready for that match. And I don't get it. I know that, like, I was there whenever Shane and Sky and Dennis played, and I saw Dennis at the pool room before and after for hours and hours and hours trying to find his 10-ball break. I mean, you can just tell it was just eating at him and eating at him and eating at him. And you're right, Sky did just show up, practice for about 30, 45 minutes maybe, and the rest is history, right? But I think it just goes back to work ethic, and I think it's a trend, and I mean, I may get a lot of flack for it, but I think it's a trend amongst Americans. I'll just put it like that. I don't think there's very many Americans who will go and put in the work like that to go and prepare the way they should. You piss off Shane will do it, but Shane doesn't need to go and gamble to go and have a good life at this point in his career.
Shane isn't motivated by money. Shane is motivated by, you pissing him off or, a slight to his character or something like that. Shane doesn't need the money, so he can't be motivated by that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, don't get me wrong, the money's good, but that's what gets him up in the morning to go and play. I think, like, for this, whenever he said, I'm going to get another swing at Dennis, let's go, because I ain't going to lose 3 times in a row, and but I don't get it, man. I don't understand. It really just frustrates me. The guys who put in there, I don't blame them one bit for not wanting to go and get involved in that Dennis match after what they've seen, But I mean, what can you do? We don't see this in but at the same time, I see Europeans going and gambling like this. But I like, just from a work ethic standpoint, all you see is those kids going, and every time they post something, they're on a pool table. Am I lying, Jim?
No, true. Yeah.
How much did the Euro Tour pay?
I think well, put it this way: once you've travelled and you've stayed in your hotel, which you're required to stay in the hotel for a minimum amount of nights, I think in order to break even, you have to make quarterfinals.
You're hoping to double your money.
But see, look at that though, man. How crazy is that though? Everybody's traveling from all over the world to fight for those spots and putting in that effort, knowing that they're probably going to go and lose money showing up to that event. And that's the kind of dedication that you go and get from the Europeans. And then we get this. And this is like a recurring theme here, boys. This is the Predator event all over again. If that event is held in Europe, how packed is that? How full is that? And how soon is it full?
It's done. It's full within an hour.
If it's held in Europe, there would not be a 64-player cap like there was. That didn't fill. Because they did.
So what are we talking about?
Right? It was like 38 players in that field. Is that right?
Yeah, it didn't even. I don't know exactly, but I know it didn't fill up.
It did not get to 64, which is the limit, right? So you're talking a $10,000 added event that Predator is putting on to try to grow this sport, and the players will not support it. There was like 12 Americans in that entire field.
Yeah. So I mean, like,
at the end of the day, like,
it's mind blowing to me, man. But this is just the reality of the way it is right now, And you can call it a culture, whatever you want to call it. For whatever reason, this is just the way those guys are getting up for it, And Carlo's not that guy to go in like the day of, I'm gonna go and get ready. Carlo will punish you, and I know Carlo did make a lot of mistakes, but I don't remember Carlo playing a not on the spot event. Maybe the international a few years ago. Besides that, I haven't seen him very much. But there was times Carlos put on a highlight reel, and we're not even really talking about it because of the news that happens right afterward. Carlo had moments of genius in that match.
But that is Carlo. He is that good. He is like. I mean, we're talking. I mean, you guys are talking as if Sky played like terrible. Okay, maybe his attitude wasn't. Maybe he wasn't prepared. But we discussed this last week, and I think when we discussed it last week, we thought it was a race to 100. We were asking what we all thought, and we were all round about the 80, 75 to 80, maybe 85 that Sky would reach if it was going to 100. And I think when Carlo got to the 100, it was 76, I think Sky was on. So we're not far away there. And he's ended up with 101 to Carlo's 120. Now, that's probably around about where you would put him, based on, I mean, Nate did the whole Fargo thing with Shane against Sky, when Shane did Sky 150 to 119, I think it was.
Yeah, it was within it was then about I think 6 games of where Fargo would have predicted it.
Yeah, Fargo put it right around there, and I'm guessing Fargo would probably put Sky around about the 100, going to 120 against Carlo. So they've kind of played the way. I mean, if this Fargo is all which the more and more we do these kind of things and these matches are played, it does seem reasonably accurate, the whole Fargo thing. So Sky's probably played around about the strength that he should have been playing against Carlo. I never ever thought he would get there against him. If what's happened has been based on the fact that he lost to Carlo, then I mean that's kind of bullshit, because he's not supposed to beat Carlo, really, in my opinion. Could he have played better? I didn't see the match. Did he miss balls that he wasn't supposed to miss? You've played 200 racks. I mean, at the end of the day, he got off to a really bad start, and he never managed to claw that back. But he kept the lead that Carlo had, halfway through day one, that held pretty much the rest of the match. So the rest of the match, they kind of played even. Because I think Carlo was very quickly up about 15, 16 racks, wasn't he?
That's what I think day two, Sky got within like 8 or 7, somewhere around there. And it seemed like early on, but then Carlo Carlo stretched it back to 12 or so, where it started the day at. So it was like you go and get some momentum, and then you get punched in the stomach again.
But that's exactly what we said last week. Sky has more than enough ability to hang with these top guys over a shorter period of time. You give him a race to 9 against these guys, or even a race to 20, and he can do it. He can get there. But when you're talking about an extended match over 120, maybe the consistency isn't there. He's going to have these bad moments, and he can't hang with them for that long a period. That's exactly what we said last week. He can hang over a shorter period of time, but we couldn't see him getting there against Carlo, getting up to 100 or 120. And that's exactly what proved to be. He had these moments where he battered Carlo for an hour and a half, and managed to squeeze some racks out of it and get closer. But over the long run, he just couldn't keep it.
Do you guys think the format needs tweaking? Like maybe a race to 21, best of 5 sets. So that
I'd like to see sets. Yeah, I'd like to see sets. Yeah.
That way, if let's say you get smoked the first day, I mean, it happened with Jeff and Fink. They played even, after that. But if you have a best of sets format, that day one performance isn't going to go and haunt you, for the rest of the event.
Yeah. So really quickly, basically, Fargo would predict that Carlo would win 120 to about 104.
So he's played 3 lakhs less than what Fargo says. I mean, it's pretty close,
Yeah, it's spot as close. Yeah. So, I mean,
So you can't really say that Sky's underperformed unless Carlo also underperformed. But Carlo played pretty solid.
Well, I mean, look, Miguel said it in there. Miguel was there at Bills. He was there in Oklahoma. He said it. I mean, Carlo showed up with his B or C game and still dominated like that. And I think that's fair. I mean, but with Carlo, you would have excuses, right? I've never seen Carlo go and play on that kind of stage before.
Yeah.
I mean, Carlo's a gambler through and through. You know, he's Filipino. He's very well seasoned in that regard, but he's never been on a stage like that. So at least then you could give him a little bit of a pass. Plus, I haven't seen Carlo play a whole lot of not on the spot myself, you know. But
I don't think I've ever seen him in a Euro tour.
No, never. None of the Europeans. I mean, I'm sorry, none of the Filipinos.
No.
Not enough money.
Okay, that's something we discussed last week. We weren't sure about how the break would go, kind of thing. Yeah.
Hey, I heard there's rumblings of Carlo and Fedor though. That's what I heard. World champion versus world champion.
Bring it on.
I don't know.
It's got to be 9-ball. It's got to be 9-ball.
What do you mean? You don't think Carlo No.
Carlo played 10-ball as well. Carlo
will play 10-ball. I think he can get staked at that game.
I think he can get staked. I just don't think he can win.
Look, I mean, Fedor may have gotten up early on Jeff, but like I said, he played him pretty much even for the rest of the event thereafter. And I don't put Jeff anywhere near Carlo's league myself.
No, I agree with that, but I think that if Fedor wanted to step on the gas pedal, if Fedor needed to, he would have. Jeff never got within 20 games realistically and put a huge push on him.
That's exactly what happened with Sky and Carlo. Carlo got off to a good start, and Sky never really got back to him. Did Carlos have his foot off the gas and just holding on to his lead and just winning the racks you're supposed to win? You know, if you end up with a 15 rack lead, if you just win the racks you're supposed to get out of, and don't make any stupid mistakes, you're not going to give that away. You know, so you don't have to force anything. Whereas Sky's having to force stuff. So you never know if the guys are giving it 100%, if they're playing their top A game, or if they're just playing a little bit just within themselves, just to make sure that they don't do anything stupid.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about it a little bit closer now. I think, all right, it would be. I think Fedor would pull it out, but I think it'd be pretty close. I'll tell you,
both sides and backers like their end of it. I can tell you that. Yeah. So I think there's a good chance it happens. But I mean, people forget, like, and this is going back to what we're talking about when it comes to the seats and not selling out. Like, Fedor and Jeff didn't do so well, you know. But a lot of people, I mean, they knew Fedor as a world champion at that time, Mosconi Cup champion. But it takes time to go and like build a fan base here in the U.S. for people to like want to go and spend money to go and show up to go and watch you. And Jeff doesn't have a fan base here in the U.S., you know. So when you get guys like that, I think it was just a combination of things. But there's one thing about Mike and them. They're going to continue to push forward. Again, this shows the legitimacy of the money in the middle by what happened with Sky and them pulling out, you know, because they're not going to go and sell you a money match and have it be an exhibition. They got too much integrity for that. So, and that's why I'm proud to be a sponsor with them. One of the reasons anyway.
Yeah. No, I think it's I mean, how awesome is it? I think Michael Salmon said it perfectly. This used to be, you know, this was almost getting a little bit boring just watching Dennis and Shane and Sky kind of just basically toss matches back and forth. But now we're starting to get more players involved, like Fedor and Carlo, and you know, it sounds like Albin might be wanting to jump into the box. I mean, it'd be awesome to start getting more of these players in. I think there could be a market for it. I'm more of a traditionalist. I love watching gambling matches, but I wish most of the action would be involved in big tournaments like the World Championships. Hopefully the Predator Tour takes off. I like to see my pool more in.
What do you mean, Nate?
I like to see more people involved, right? So if we're watching a gambling match, I love watching gambling matches, of course. I buy every single one of them. I'm sitting here watching them from start to finish for the most part. But if I can watch a tournament with 128 players and I can learn narratives about, you know, the twin brothers from South Africa, or, you know, the 13-year-old or or even like a 15-year-old version of Joshua Filler when we're watching him play against, I want to say that was actually Jurgen Goplin in a Euro tour, and we're watching him, you know, play in that. We're getting to see new profiles.
Dimitri Jungo.
It was him?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're getting to see these new profiles, these new players with individual stories and individual narratives. And we can actually start building some cool stories based off of this where, these gambling matches, you're just watching pool. And I think to grow the game specifically, we got to have more than just Shane and Dennis battling it out all the time. We got to bring in new blood and bring in new stories and new trends.
The reason why it's so compelling is because Shane and Dennis are who they are, right? They have the resumes that they go and have. Dennis and his wins and his, money match experience, and Shane with all of his U.S. Open titles and all of those, just the battles that we've seen him in over has made these people, us, right, be fans of these guys, right? I mean, Filler's not a legend by winning one world championship. Jason's not that either. None of these guys are. Sky, part of Sky's story is his MVP. But along the more fandom for these guys by watching them more and more. So you're absolutely right. But yeah, I mean, they're not gonna put just anybody on the pay-per-view. And not any of these guys can go and get stake. Like, I mean, I'm surprised. Depending on the match, I'm surprised Albin could get stake for really big amount because I ain't really seen him go and gamble for big amounts, and gambling in tournaments different,
Yeah.
No,
the thing is, these big matches are great for pool fans, for already established pool fans. You want to see these big guys going up against each other and having some money on it and really getting into the match, and maybe there's a little bit of a grudge in the background kind of thing that we know about because we're all involved in the pool scene. As far as expanding the sport to a wider audience, it has zero impact whatsoever for such a massive match. If you're talking about the biggest match of the entire year was Shane against Dennis, and it went hill, and it was the most amazing thing ever. Did it create any new viewers for pool throughout the world? No. And it's the biggest match of the whole year.
That one I could push back on a little bit because they actually did a decent job at getting that those last few matches out there and circulating. And maybe if some random 16-year-old kid comes across it who's never seen a pool table before, maybe they're compelled by the story. But I kind of agree with Mike that that's such an interesting match because we do have that long trend line of these guys have been battling and grinding against each other for years and years and years. And that means nothing to a 16-year-old kid coming across it for the first time, or for that matter, a 65-year-old guy who plays pool casually with his buddies from high school. I don't know. The idea is, I don't think that really adds a lot, but what it does do is it gets that video out there. A lot of eyeballs get on it, and you can at least know that there's the reach on that is hundreds of thousands, if not maybe millions of people from that match.
Well, I mean, listen, if they're going and getting 10,000 or let's say 5 to 10,000 a man guaranteed for showing up, I'm just happy these guys are being able to go and get a paycheck. And for those guys who aren't invited to the party, listen, when you get a resume like Shane and Dennis, then you can get invited to the party. It's just that simple. But they their own work outside of this to go and have people want to go and see them play. But I mean, if the world was more open, who knows? I mean, Kachi likes to go and gamble. Filler likes to go and gamble, I heard. So, I mean, there's plenty of guys. Chang's on his way over here to come and play Shane on a match that's really kind of put together last minute, but he's itching to go and play. I mean, I think there's opportunity, but the logistics of it are make it super difficult. But I mean, they're trying to go and make the best of it and cram it into a smaller window as they have, given that these guys are only going to be over here but a short time. And Fedor will play anybody. He don't care when it is, where it is. I mean, he'll play whenever. He just wants to go and gamble. So
I think he just wants
I like
to
that.
I mean, I see Joey Ryan in the comments saying, "How do you know, Jim?" And there's no date on that. You're just assuming. No, I don't have any date on it. You're correct, and maybe it did reach some people who'd never watched pool before. But if you look at any other sport in the world that's grown, is grown through tournament play, and tournaments being available to people to watch. Shorter races, more excitement. Whereas this is for a pool fan. Who's going to sit? I mean, only a pool fan would sit and watch 200 racks with the same players playing 200 racks over 3 days. That's not going to build an audience. If that was the case, if that was the kind of thing that people outside of a sport who are new to a sport, if that's the kind of thing they want to see, then you'd be seeing Roger Federer playing against Rafael Nadal for 5 years straight, playing a set to 100 games, and
Roger don't want that smoke. Roger don't want.
Roger can't hang them for 100 games. No, probably not anymore.
Well, his knee's going on, man. He just had surgery on his knee. He just had surgery on his knee. Be nice to the guy. Yeah. But no, well, Jim, I do want to talk about that, because there's kind of two ways of promoting the sport, right? Or sports in general. What you're talking about is the way that most of them operate, but there's actually boxing tournaments, right? And boxing isn't promoted by tournaments. The Olympics is a tournament, right? Boxing in the Olympics is a tournament, but that gets its big publicity from Mayweather and Pacquiao, and from Tyson Fury and the dude from the other guy, I can't remember his name. But so there's two ways to promote. The idea is Poole is trying to do both of them, I think, and I think that tournaments is a better option, as do you. But you can't just say that you can't promote it in that kind of way when you see MMA.
You're talking about boxing. Like you talk about boxing, or you talk about boxing isn't two guys getting in a ring and all their mates getting together and say, "I'll put money on you," and all his mates are going to put money on him, and then at the end of it, they're boxing for a world championship, or they're boxing to get their ranking up to have a go at a world championship. I mean,
oh no, they like that money too. Trust me.
Oh, they like that money. They like that money.
But find me a sport that doesn't have gambling, legal gambling along with it. Every major sport you're going to be able to place a wager
by the public, yes, but not by the players involved.
Oh yeah, no.
That's illegal. Yeah. It's illegal to bet on yourself in a real sport. A real sport, it's illegal to bet on yourself.
I can't argue with that.
Yep. Well, yeah. The difference between MMA and boxing is the players get, and I might be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure this is right. The boxers are getting paid by the promoters who put on the fight, who are then paid by corporate sponsors who are sponsoring the event, advertising with it. Right now, we are getting paid by people who are posting money and gambling illegally. So, that's the big difference.
Really, there's a handful of guys who keeping these guys paid. It's tough.
Yeah, exactly.
But we've said this before. It's the same $100 bill that's floating around between all these people.
Exactly. Yeah.
For years.
So the idea is,
is it a good look?
Situation. Let's take a perfect world. Yeah. Let's take a perfect world where there actually is corporate money in Poole. Rolex is sponsoring events, and BMW, and Arab Emirates, all these different places. There's money in Poole, and people are actually going to put money behind these tournaments and gambling matches, similar to boxing and similar to, let's say, golf. Which do you think would be the best way of promoting the sport at that point? The one-on-one matchups with established players, similar to that of MMA and boxing, or do you think it'd be better the golf approach, where you just have a bunch of major events with a bunch of fillers in between them?
The golf, and then occasionally you have Tiger. Then occasionally you have Tiger Woods calling out Phil Mickelson for $1 million, like they did, and then that becomes a once in a lifetime thing.
10 million.
But that becomes a once in a lifetime thing, and the buzz on that, it just exploded for that, and then that's when you have a Dennis against Shane happening once in a 5-year period, where everyone goes, not 3 times in a year. It's not.
It certainly takes its luster away.
At what point is it not special anymore to see them doing another race to 150?
That's fair. That's a very fair argument. I can't argue that. But then the flip side of it is, look, they can just take their money, go and play on table 9 in the corner at some hole in the wall that nobody's ever heard of, right? And the match goes on, and then we get robbed of an opportunity to go and see it. So then we're complaining about that, so it's a double edge. But I understand what you're saying though, Jim, for sure. I personally, I would rather have the golf and tennis approach myself. But in the meantime, these guys still got to go and crack a nut, man. They still got to try to make some kind of money.
For me, Poole is where it needs to be when the gambling is done by amateurs. And all the pros are making enough and earning enough playing the tournaments. And they're traveling the world, they're doing the tournament thing, they're proper professionals. And the gambling, That's the amateurs. They can do all the gambling they want. Like in other sports, you go and have a game of tennis with your mate, and you turn around and say, "I'll put $15 on this or whatever," or you know, whatever. But the pros are pros, and they play the tournaments. But there has to be enough money there that everybody can feed, you know, from that pot. And,
Rob,
and
what
then
do you think?
and that's a proper pro tour, you know.
I see a huge difference in the sporting world with pool being set aside from all the rest of the sports in one way in particular, and that's the venues. I think people, you got Pebble Beach, you get these huge venues that people have been watching for years and years and years. What do you got? A little pool room in Oklahoma? I mean, how many pool players in the United States even been there and know that place or even want to go there and play pool there?
Let's test this, Rob. Do you know where it was held at?
Roy's basement. You got a few places to play, but they're not heralded as these huge events are like the rest of the sports. So that's one problem. And people tune into sports because of that particular event, the prestige behind that event, and the venue itself, where it's held. You don't see that in pool. It's just not there yet.
I mean,
that doesn't mean it can't be there. And some of the one-on-one matches may help to present that as, hey, this venue is where it should be at Freezer's Place in Arizona, or and they have to get known, and they're just not known.
I got a question. You guys have been obviously many more events in the States, the big events, let's say all the different US Opens that happen at Griff's and all that kind of stuff. Is anybody ever inviting members of the press round, somebody from a local radio station to come around and interview a couple of people, or reporters that for writing articles in the newspapers, anyone doing any sort of media stuff in order to get this to the outside world? Because it's not difficult to invite the local radio station, just somebody around and say, listen, we've got a pool tournament, you want to come around? I've got the world champion here, just a 5-minute segment or whatever. A reporter from the local newspaper, a week before, that gets it in the newspaper that shows, there's a massive big pool tournament with world champions turning up at Griff's, come around and have a look. It's free entry. Is anybody doing, or is it just a case of, I'm going to put a poster on Facebook, and I'm going to contact all the players that I know will probably want to play, and they turn around, I add 10 grand to it, and there we've got a tournament,
Well, like you said,
there must be more that should be done.
I think the amateurs do have that, because you have the organizations behind the amateurs playing who do that kind of thing. The pros don't.
Few and far between.
You see 5,000 pool players show up at a casino in Vegas to play pool, amateurs, and only one of those 5,000 is going to win that event. So you have the amount of players you need there at that to do that, and they promote that all year. They promote it in their league play. They promote it over the social media. So yeah,
okay, their league
don't have anything like that anymore.
Yeah, promoting it in your league is just promoting it to more pool players. Promoting it on your social media.
Yeah, that's
probably 90% of pool players as well. It needs to be promoted. Somebody needs to open their newspaper and have a massive big spread in the middle saying US Open 9-ball at Griff's from these dates, with a nice big poster there that somebody who's sitting having their breakfast in the morning looks at this and says, oh, look at that. Look what's happening at Griff's. What are we doing Saturday? You want to go along and have a look at this? We'll have a couple of beers. Might be nice. There's some world champions playing there. Let's go and have a look. That's how you get new people watching the game. They come in, maybe they walk in after 10 minutes, they say, oh, it's a bit stinky in here, I don't like it. Or all these, or maybe they come in and say, hey, that's quite cool, I wouldn't mind a go at that. And then you get new people in, it's not that difficult really, but nobody seems to do that. Nobody seems to make an effort to actually put anything out there for Joe Blogs who's sitting at home who doesn't even know what the game exists, It's all aimed at, let's let all the pool community know that this tournament's going on. Why are we not letting everybody know that this tournament's going on?
This is one part of why I really like what Ozzy and them are doing at TSI, because I think a real vital part of the success of it goes hand in hand with amateurs. Amateurs have to be fans of these guys in order to want to go and spend money to go and see them. And that's why I love, are we eating dinner, Jim? Is that what we're doing? Amateurs amateur tournaments going and being paired up with pro events, I think is the best thing. And that's one thing. If you whenever you go to BCA at the beginning of September, you'll see it. In the middle, you'll have 100 of tables there in the middle, and then you'll have your pro events in the back. And hopefully after they're done with their matches, they're going to go and see this guy play that match or that guy play that match. And then now they have a vested interest in seeing the
Did he just freeze for me, or did he freeze for everybody?
He's frozen. He's frozen.
Well,
but I'm going to continue with what he said. When you go to these BCA events, these amateur events that have a professional tournament going on at exactly the same time as the amateurs are playing, there was a tremendous amount of interaction and excitement with the amateur players and pros having these people coming. I mean, 500 people watching these matches, every match, and they can pick the player they want to match. Those were great things. Plus, they had events like Challenge the Pro, and then they would tape it. Jennifer Beretta was the commentator in one of those. And you pay so much money to challenge a pro, they tape it. You can take the tape home with you. And that kind of stuff was tremendous for pool. You're talking about pros going to a tournament and trying to win some money at this tournament, where there's the average amateur player going to one of these big national tournaments. They ain't going to win a dime. They're going to win anything. They're going to lose at gambling. They're going to lose.
They're going to win a fun time, Rob. They're going to win a fun time.
They're having a fun time, and they're having the opportunity to interact with some of the big name stars of the sport that they love. I'm
Nate.
What you said before about pros playing on bar tables, forget it. I really don't like that at all. That's kind of meaningless to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we could probably beat this dead horse all day long talking about just different strategies for helping the industry. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. We need the people to just step up and start doing stuff, and that's why Matchroom doing what they're doing. Predator is doing a lot of things to grow the industry as far as building the tour. Hopefully Ed Ladawi and the NBL can take off in the US. Just diagnosing the issue does nothing until we actually start working towards a fix and a cure for all of this. So I just hope that the people that are putting the money behind the industry have the best intentions and are going to try to do their best to actually grow it. Because
I don't have the answers to it all, but I hope somebody does. It'd be nice if somebody came along that had all the answers.
And I hope the people who do have the answers have the financial backing behind them.
For amateurs, that wasn't sponsored by a particular league that you have to play in order to go play in this tournament. There was one 20 years ago down in Texas, and Mike, that fellow's name who won that, was David Gutierrez. I had remembered what it was. And that was, you just had to be an amateur. You didn't have to play in any league. You didn't have to, and that wouldn't hurt the sport.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of strategy that we could put together ultimately that would do some things.
A tour. We need a professional tour. That's where
absolutely no question, Jim.
I should not be allowed to play in the US Open. I can just pay my $1,000 and I can go and play in the US Open.
We can make that happen, Jim.
Yeah? That shouldn't happen. It should be 256 people with a tour card or whatever, or 128 players with a tour card who have earned their spot there. Not just I'll pay $1,000. I'll go and play the US Open. Can you imagine if you did that in tennis? It just turned up with your bag and say, "Yeah, I paid my entry. I'll
play Wimbledon now." Jim, what are you eating?
We got to take steps, boys. I think Matchroom's taking steps.
I agree with that.
You got some potatoes and some, what is that? I don't even know what that is.
Looks like Blarney to me. Plate full of Blarney.
Mm. My wife made it while she was in the kitchen barking, Nate.
Oh, here we go again.
Is she trying to get some action? Is she trying to get 10-7?
With their own money.
All right, let's move on, I guess. Let's start talking about the match that's coming up this week. As we already discussed before, Sky is out. Shane is in. They are going to be playing a race to 150 bar table 9-ball. I will start off this discussion by saying I am near insulted that these two players, as good as they are going to be playing bar table 9-ball. And that is my analysis at this point. You guys can take over.
Yeah, I'm disappointed too, Nate, with that. They should be in a 12-foot table with snooker pockets.
Yeah, it's kind of like Nadal and Federer turning up and saying they're going to play table tennis.
Yeah, you know? It is.
I like that. Yeah. I like that analogy.
Yeah, or badminton.
Yeah.
I hate it. I just hate it. I mean, I get that we've already seen the big table 9-ball twice. I get that. I do get that. 9-ball is such an easy game with a template on a big table. If you're doing for these players, one on the spot with a template on a big table, that game is too easy for these types of players. Why are you playing on a 7-footer?
Let's just go down the list here, okay? So we can't go and have 9 on the spot big table because they've already played it twice. Shane loses twice, right? So that wouldn't go and make sense. You're gonna have pros.
Want none of that 10-ball action.
Dennis wants 0 part of that 10-ball action. None after what happened last time. So that's not an option. Now, bar table 10-ball, you can't go and play because Shane goes and steamrolls Sky. Yeah. And Sky and Dennis was close, but Sky ended up winning. So that doesn't make sense. I don't know, man. The list is kind of short. Shane hates one pocket. I like bar table 8-ball. Yeah. But, Shane's got a big break. So, I mean, I don't know.
9-ball is just – it's such an easy game on a big table when you're racking 1 on the spot. Like, how in the world can
No. They're playing 9 on the spot.
They're playing 9 on the spot on a bar table?
Yeah, they're playing 9 on the spot. Yeah.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Good question here.
I'm gonna buy
Jeffrey would still try and get a couple of inches extra out of the break. Put the cue ball center table.
We would.
He'd be like that far away from the one.
Well, I mean, listen, you got to get more creative, right, with these guys. The problem is that when you start having, like, imagine if it was a Scotch doubles match, or if it was a, Team Q-Tech versus Team Predator, or, something more creative. But the problem is that then you have more mouths to feed, and then the money that you're guaranteeing to these guys becomes less and less and less. So it's a double-edged sword, But I do know they are working on some other great things. I mean, the alternative is just for them to go and cancel the match.
I will stand by what I said, unless you have an interest.
We're gonna meet you, Rob.
So what happened?
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I get. Okay, I don't know. This just seems really weird. 9 on the spot, bar table 9-ball. I mean, would it surprise anybody? Like, let's just say there's no scratches and there's no dry breaks for 20 straight racks. Let's just say that. How many of those 20 racks do you think are going to get ran between these two players? Minimum, I'm guessing minimum on average 16 to 17. It wouldn't surprise me a bit if whoever wins this 100 to 150 racks. It wouldn't surprise me a bit if there are 110 runouts, EROs.
Well, that's what I mean, though. Like, it's not. I mean, they're not trying to go and cement legacies here. They have to figure out a game that works for gambling. And you can't go and put Dennis in a box against Shane playing 10-ball. Period. And I don't know. I don't know if
I think it's 3 races to 50, 8-ball, 9-ball, 10-ball.
Well, I mean, that'd be fun. But again, it goes back to like what the backers.
That kind of thing. Do just if you're going to play each other that amount of time, just do an all-round thing, but stick to the standard stuff.
I'd rather see 1 pocket personally. For all you European rotation guys out there, okay?
It can be anything, but let's make it standardized. You're talking about they have to get creative in order to get this match set up. You end up being creative to get matches set up, and the whole gambling thing is the reason why every single game has got 4 or 5 different rule sets. And it's all come from the gambling thing. I'm not playing you with that rule set. Well, how about we just change this a little bit and change that a little bit, and then maybe that matches it up because your break's better than mine. Bugger off, go and practice your break then. Don't negate my break just because I've spent time mastering it. And now you won't play me because I've spent time getting good at something. You pot better than me. I think the pocket should be made smaller when you're at the table. I mean, come on. Just play the game the way it's supposed to be played. And if you're better, you're better. If you're not, you're not.
Well, it's not compelling if they're just going to go and play cheap $100 sets, Jim. No one's going to go and tune into that. I mean, they can go. Listen, Dennis can go and say to Shane, "Hey, I'll play you for 100 a set, race to 7," and they'll play that game all day long. But no one's going to want to like. Hey, part of the excitement is.
That's what I mean. Then play different games. Turn around and say, "Okay, I'll play you twice. You choose your game. I'll choose my game." And then whoever's got the best aggregate score at the end of it,
and make this 9-ball game the hill match. If it goes 1-1,
you know what?
right?
I'll tell you what. Let's just turn on the Facebook Live, and then we'll just play a race to 21 flipping quarters. That you want to talk about some action? Listen,
Alex will be there.
As long as it's not Shane flipping the coin, he breaks lights.
Listen, for better or worse, this is what we got. You know.
Yeah,
I think it's a shame. I think it's a shame that these two great players are going up against each other and they're playing on a baby table. Personally, but okay, if that's what they want to do.
But my wife just mentioned to me. She said, "There's a comment
call
here. How do we get people who are not interested in pool to watch pool? Okay, because if they don't have the interest, they're not going to." She just said to me, she said, "I'm not interested in baseball and I'm not interested in golf. And you got me interested in it." So what that means to her is that the players now, the people who are interested in the game, the amateurs and pros, it's up to them. It's not up to the sponsors. It's not up to the venue holders, the people who own the pool halls. It's up to the players to get other people who are not interested in the game interested in it by bringing up the intricacies of the game. What baseball didn't mean anything to her, but once I started talking about, you know, the pitcher catcher, the batter intricacies, and how the runners get signals, and all this other stuff that an average viewer watching the game doesn't get, they don't see that because that's something you have to know by watching the game. Once that happens with pool, you get somebody who's knowledgeable, who's into the game, getting people who are not interested in it, interested because of the deeper conversations that you guys are having, we're all having. That's going to make a difference.
Yeah, I think Joey Ryan nailed it on the head right there. I think I kind of said this earlier. I think it'd be awesome. I think you play 8-ball, 9-ball, 10-ball, and play them in the order of 8-ball first, 10-ball second, 9-ball last, since this is the match anyways. But
Great idea.
I think what Joey said would be a pretty cool idea. Just match number 1 on Friday is Dennis's game, and Shane doesn't know what it is until he shows up.
Exactly, that's what I just said. Play each other, play each other. How good are you going to feel if you're Shane and you say to Dennis, "I'll give you everything. You can have anything you want. You make the rules," and then you go and beat him at his own game.
Huh.
That gets you the credit. That gets you, you know.
Well, I mean, listen, I love that idea, but you're starting off 1-1. Because Shane ain't beating him even in one pocket, and Dennis ain't beating him even in 10-ball. So all we're gonna have left is just 8-ball and 9-ball after that.
Yeah, but screw one pocket. Nobody wants to watch one pocket.
Jim, you just love crushing my dreams over here, Jim. Don't you?
You do have a point.
8-ball, 9-ball, 10-ball. 8-ball, 9-ball, 10-ball. 9-ball is the tie. And you know, you pick, or if Dennis wants the 9-ball, I mean, Shane's going to take the 8-ball. That's going to take the 10-ball. If Dennis wants the 9-ball, take the 9-ball, and the 8-ball's the tie. Fine.
What I'm saying is, like, play it on a bar table. So it's the bar table, right? If you're going to play bar table, fine, whatever, I don't care. But like, let Dennis pick his game going, and if he wants to play one pocket on a bar table, I mean, it's pretty stupid. But I've seen lots of people play. Well, yeah, I know, but I've seen lots of people play one pocket with 11 balls on a bar table. It's a real game. You could set up that game. Dennis could bring that in.
I've done it before.
Like set it up. Like I just
this is my whole point. You don't just create new games because people want
Jim's
to gamble.
head's gonna explode.
It makes my teeth itch that you're actually sitting there thinking we could just create an entirely new game for these guys. There's enough games. There's enough different rule sets. If anything, we need less. We need to get rid of all the different rules.
What I'm saying, Jim, is if the match is going to happen, it's going to happen on a bar table. I think 9 on the spot, 9 ball on a bar table is the silliest thing that they could play. It's just
what they want to gamble. That's what they want to gamble. It's like Mike said, they could sit and flip coins. If you want to watch it, watch it. If you don't. That's what they want. It's a gambling match. If somebody was to do a tournament and call it the US Open and then have these rules or whatever, then you think, oh, come on, are you serious? And winner breaks, races to 6 in the first rounds. Yeah, you'd think it's a bit silly. But if these guys want to gamble money based on that, they can do what they like.
Where they did flip a coin to see who won.
Yeah. They do what they
Best out of 4 or something like that. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start the U.S. coin flipping tour. I'm out of here.
Yeah,
boys.
I'm
done.
First and second place.
US CFT.
Yeah.
The US CFT.
Yeah.
It rings, man. It's good. I don't know. Let's jump into predictions. Mike, you're up there first. Let's see what you got. Race to 150. What's your prediction?
Man, I got no clue. I'm assuming Shane's gonna go and take it. I don't see the man losing 3 times in a row. He's got too much pride. I think he wants this more than ever. That's why he snap called real quick. Because Shane's not the easiest to go and make a game with. You know, Shane can kind of be like, Shane wants it his way. So for him to go and just snap call, he's got to like his side. I like his side. What is it, 150?
150,
so, yeah, I don't know. I don't see. Shot in the dark, let's say Shane by 22. And no, I'm not laying any games. I'm just I'll
take 30.
I just say that, yeah.
I'll take 30. Jim?
Again, I mean, like you said, it's an easier game for both of them playing on the small table. But I see both players putting packs together. I just see Shane putting bigger packs in, and for that reason, I think his packs will just be slightly bigger than what Dennis is going to do. So Shane, and how much? I don't know. I can see. I can see Dennis getting into the 130s, something like that. I guess. Yeah, I don't think it'll be a huge amount in it. What does Fargo say? Because Fargo's pretty accurate. What does Fargo say it'll be?
Fargo would say probably by about 10. Probably Shane by about 10 would be my guess.
No, more than that. It'll be more than 10. Yeah.
There's only 10 points separating them. There's 17. There's 17 separating Sky and Carlo. Yeah, there's 17 separating Sky and Carlo, and the prediction there was only 17 games. So there's less separating them. There's more games, but it's going to be maybe 15 to 10 to 15, somewhere in there. I think Dennis gets to about 135, something like that. Okay. Rob?
Yeah, I'm on board with that. 10 games, probably in that area. Whatever the Fargo says, is you do the Fargo numbers seem to apply the longer the races. And so if you do have something over 100, it's going to be pretty accurate. I don't like Fargo, but I think it's going to be pretty accurate.
Yeah. I guess I don't think I've ever actually in my entire life seen anybody play 9 on the spot on a bar table. I don't think I've ever seen it. I would assume the break is going to be the same for the big table, but it wouldn't surprise me a bit if both of these players are using some head on from the side or from the center, and because that wing ball is going to go so much easier. Why would
if they start soft breaking, I'm out. I can't watch them soft break 9 ball on a bar table. That's just the worst. I mean, that's just I can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need to be that accurate when the ball or when the pocket is. What is the pocket going to be about? 8 or 9 inches closer to 8 or 9 inches closer than on a big table. So maybe even a little bit more. I mean, I don't know exactly what, but the idea is you don't need to be as accurate on that wing ball. So if you don't have to cut the rack and risk that scratch into the opposite side pocket, why would you? So it comes down to me as to whether or not they're going to actually have to cut the rack. If they're going to have to cut the rack, I mean, you're going to start running into more weird kicks into the side pocket or up into the corner, whatever it is. And then I think as you get more and more and more into that, I think it favors Dennis. But if you're able to break this head on and find a way to hit it square while making the wing ball, I could see Shane winning by 50. If it gets more into a cutting the rack type of thing, I could see Dennis maybe even eking it out or getting dang close to it. Because I know nothing about the break, I don't know. I literally, going into this match, I have zero clue what's going to end up happening with this match.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how they deal with the break, because on the small table with a 9 on the spot, the one ball is very easy to make in the center, but then you're just gambling on where you're on the 2. You know, so that's your guaranteed. That's a guaranteed ball. That guarantees.
And interesting. And a very interesting thing about that is there was nothing on that flyer about pattern racking, right? So you can start controlling that 2 ball.
You can stick the 2. You know, I don't know if you could put the 2 somewhere that you know is going to, if you're playing.
They'll be pattern racking. They're not. They're going to be. They're experts.
They're going to be putting the 2. They're probably going to be putting the 2 where they want. Probably right behind the 1 ball would be my guess, and letting it go up table, getting it away from everything else would be my guess.
Listen, the bottom line is they both want to win. They both got pride, and nobody wants to go and lose to them. To them, it's a brand new game, and they're both going to be coming for each other's throats. I don't think any lead is going to be secure, especially if one of them or both of them go and figure out the break, because I don't think hitting them with 6s and 7s is going to be out of line if they figure out the break. So I think that. Yeah. Go ahead.
If they can break them head on, and still make that 1 ball and play position to the 2 ball, or break them head on and make the wing ball and control the 1 ball, it wouldn't surprise me a bit if they are regularly running 8s to 12s.
They're competitors, and you don't think Shane is a little embarrassed by losing 2 times to him and wants to go and send a message? You know.
Yep.
I just don't see how. This game is just I could see them both going through this entire thing missing less than 5 balls apiece. What's the shot on them?
I'll take the over.
Yeah, I'll take the over on that as well.
How much can we bet?
All right. Maybe that's a little bit of an exaggeration. But what shot are they afraid of on that table?
No, I mean there's a lot of like 2-way. I mean I like it because of the clusters, but I mean going like what Stephen Fair said about Corey, I like bar table 8-ball. That game I enjoy because there's clusters you got to go and work through racks. I love watching bar table 8-ball. I would love to see Corey play bar table 8-ball again, and I'd love to see these 2 guys go and play bar table 8-ball. And I make it even tougher. Take what you make. You know?
The thing about bar table 8-ball is you need a really, really good setup, a really, really good camera, because like you said, on the small table there is a lot of clusters, and if your camera equipment and everything is not really, really, really good and your lighting in your room, then the table just looks a mess when you're watching it on the internet, and you can't see where the difference between the colors, the stripes and the spots. So you need really, really good equipment. You can get away with a kind of slightly inferior camera when you're playing a 9-ball or 10-ball, but playing on the playing 8-ball on one of those little tables when the balls are all going to be clustered up, you really need really good equipment. That's the only thing, really.
Yeah. So I guess I have to give a prediction. I'm going to assume that they're going to find a way to make the wing ball or the 1 ball with a head-on break and control the 2 ball if they need to. And I'm going to assume that because of that, I think Shane runs away with it. Maybe 25 games, 25 to 30 games, something like that. If it wouldn't surprise me a bit if it's very, very close, or even Dennis wins if they have to cut the rack. If by day 1 or day 2 they're starting to work on a cut break. Because I know that's just going to end up turning into a soft break. And Dennis already showed that he breaks that a little bit better than Shane the last time they played. He was controlling the 1 ball significantly better than Shane was. And that's, I think, why he won the match last time. So
unless they're playing on super slick valleys, I find it difficult to believe that they're going to be. I find it very difficult to believe that they're going to be able to make the wing ball, because it's not coming in. It's not coming in from the same angle as on the 9-foot table. And they're going to be hitting much higher up on that long rail.
Well, that's why I'm saying
I don't think the wing ball's on, to be honest, on a 7-foot bar table.
1 ball on the sides goes.
The 1 ball on the side is the ball you got to go for, really.
Yeah.
or just a random. But
I don't know. I don't know if that's.
I don't think the wing ball's on. I really don't think the wing.
Where did this come from? The bar table thing with these pros. When did that even start?
Well, you got to remember this was supposed to be a match between Dennis and Sky, and that was changed this week. So I think they're keeping with the spirit of the bar table. I don't think they needed to, but maybe they couldn't come to an agreement on a big table match because I'm sure Shane probably doesn't want to play.
Look.
Shane lost twice already. Why would he want to play Dennis at his game again? It seems like Dennis should have to play him at his. They're not playing one pocket. Big table 8-ball, I think, would be great. I think that'd be pretty cool. But
I will tell you guys this for everyone who does think, and this goes back, kind of like shoots myself in the foot for what I predicted. But the last 2 times they go and play bar table, Dennis wins. Dennis double dipped him at the Michael Newsom there in Dallas, and Dennis also double dipped Shane. I think it was big time in Houston a couple months back.
Yeah, it was.
So it's gonna be they're gonna be battling. Obviously Shane's just gonna be a betting favorite, but Dennis can get there on the bar table. I can promise you that.
Mm-hmm. So,
yeah.
I
Ronnie
guess
Rose's comment here is a good one. I think it's a good one. Someone missed the boat on using Earl's antics for promoting interest. People stare at car accidents. People want to see disasters. They do.
That's why we get so many viewers.
They want to see John Daly throw.
That's why people like Jim and I's commentary.
Exactly. That's why people enjoy the BG10s.
I don't know. I'm pushing back on that. I think that's so wrong in so many different ways.
I
think
it's not.
Well,
it's not wrong.
Hell no. Let me explain. I'm not arguing that people like that because of course you're gonna get that. But there's a difference between seeing a car accident with an established sport like basketball or football or something like that, or seeing it with a degenerate sport, which is still vastly what pool is, right? If you're seeing a car wreck, somebody like Earl with a degenerate sport like pool, all you're doing is like pushing it further and further into the abyss of nothingness. And I don't think that we need at this point in time, like if in 5 years from now, pool is as big as snooker in the UK, absolutely bring on people like Earl because then it's charming and it's funny to watch. But when you have the most represented pool player of the last 20 years, or at least one of them, well, probably not 20 years, probably 30 years, 10 years ago to 20 years ago before that. But like the idea is that it's not charming anymore. It's just sad. It's pathetic when you have that happen. I mean, I'm sorry, but like when I watched Earl Strickland basically on live television just dump on Eklanti Kachi in the Whirlpool Masters, I cringed. I didn't laugh. I cringed because this is the sport I'm trying to grow, and this is one of our best American ambassadors.
Listen, but you're watching. That's all that matters. You're watching.
I'm going to watch no matter what. You're not trying to get me. You're trying to get the people who are fair weather fans who know the reputation of the sport and are trying to get interested in it. And you see something like that.
Well, I'd be curious to see how many views that little clip got.
Well, I think there are people who watch professional golf just to see what Ian Poulter kind of pants he was going to wear.
And to go to Ed Ladawi, like John McEnroe absolutely helped tennis, but tennis was an established sport. That's my point. Is pool is not an established sport. I don't think that you're going to grow this.
I got colleagues at work, and they know that they see they're on my Facebook and they see me doing my thing with my camera on my table and doing some stuff, and they see this kind of stuff. And occasionally they bring up the subject of pool. They know nothing about it, absolutely nothing about it. They'll go to the pub and there'll be a pool table there, and they'll say, "Oh, we'll play a couple." They don't know what they're doing. They have no idea that they don't know the game. I mentioned the name Earl Strickland. Yeah, I know that name.
Yeah.
I say to them, Johnny Archer, Darren Appleton, Joshua Filler, Alvin Ocean, Jason Shaw, Earl Strickland. Oh yeah, him. I know him.
Well, but I get that, and I understand that people might know him, but you say the same thing about Jeanette Lee, and everybody knows who Jeanette Lee is. The thing is you know Jeanette Lee for positive reasons, not outbursts.
Oh, can't argue there.
Well, that's true, But as far as participation and viewer participation, it don't matter to them whether they're.
Jeanette Lee was on every Budweiser poster at the pool room.
Play because they got a great character, or they're watching because their character's all messed up.
They
don't care.
I used to find like the Earl Strickland stuff pretty funny, and I used to enjoy it quite a bit as well. My point is, now that I'm on the girls' side of the sport, trying to actually grow the sport, I look at what he's doing as detrimental to it. Because at the end of the day, when you go into suburbia in the U.S., you go into some suburb of some major metropolitan area, and you ask the average man and wife what their vision of pool is. Their vision is a degenerate sport, right? It's gambling, dirty, break your thumbs if you beat somebody, hustling type of thing. And when you see antics, if your only exposure to pool is the casual video of Earl Strickland dumping on Eklanti Kachi, and let's just say that comes across that suburban family's Facebook page, and they see that, you think their idea is reinforced, or do you think they're starting to think, all right, well, maybe that's not the case. Maybe it's something different. And those are the type of people that we're going to have to reach ultimately. I mean, obviously, we're only going to get maybe one out of every 300,000 of those people. But the idea is you just turned off one person for the rest of their lives. Their stereotypes have been completely, backed up, and they look at this sport for, when you see stuff like that, that's exactly what it's being presented as. We're trying to grow the sport, not it's different if we were basketball or football, where we already have a listener base of millions and millions and millions of people. Then the Dennis Rodmans, then the John McEnroes. That's great. That's charming. That's adding to the flair. But we don't have that.
I don't know. Whose stomach is growling? That's what I want to know. Now, you're right. I mean, I get it to an extent, and you got some valid points. I don't know. I like that car wreck theme. It's true, though. These guys got to have personality. They got to be on social media. There's got to be ways for fans to go and connect and follow their career and their progress and all that. So I think all of it's to a bigger point. And at the end of it, we all want to see these guys get the money they deserve. So in the meantime, we got to just go and they got to go and make a living for now.
Yeah, we talked the whole show about the players these days being able to have the ability to promote themselves when they're on that stage. And when you watch pool and know nothing about it, you watch the guy shoot balls in the hole, go sit down, and that's all you see. There isn't a lot of emotion. There isn't a lot of dramatic moments where there's a lot of excitement and stirring inside the player. You can see the fist pumping, and we see that after the match is over. But we don't see that really during the game all that much. Like a guy makes a putt on a green, and he's in the middle of the second round, and he's pumping his fists. If we saw a little more of that with pool.
Well, I think everybody loves watching the players jump up on the table after the Mosconi Cup or after the World Championship.
There's no question.
Well, I was going to say, Nate. I mean, I know you guys over in the USA for a number of years. You had ESPN was televising tournaments and stuff like that. For me in the UK, and for the majority of Europe, the only pool we ever got to see on television was Mosconi Cup. So we got to see 5 Americans every year, and 5. Well, in the beginning there was a few more. There was a couple of girls and a couple of ladies in it as well. But one of the guys, the reason it was exciting, and you started watching it, and the other people started watching it, had never seen it before, started watching it, was because of the kind of things like Earl Strickland doing all these stuff, the race course and jumping around. Earl Strickland is probably over the years, I would say back in the 90s, responsible, that era and that group of players, Strickland, Archer, those guys, they were Steve Davis for the European side, Jimmy White for the European side. These are the guys that brought the biggest amount of viewers to pool over the years. That's when pool went from, certainly over here, from nobody watching it to a huge amount of people watching pool. It still wasn't as accessible as it is now within Europe, and in the UK, certainly not. You couldn't find a 9-ball table anywhere. But those were the guys. You watched it. Steve Davis, Jimmy White, Johnny Archer, Earl Strickland. These are the guys that made it interesting for people to watch.
Yeah,
So you can't really it might be old. It might be old news now. Earl Strickland and his antics might be old news now, but don't underestimate how much they actually helped Pool grow over the years.
You guys are pretty young. You probably don't remember, but I watched live on Sundays on the main sports channel, ABC Sports, Willie Mosconi playing Minnesota Fats. And there was millions of people that watched this who didn't know anything about pool. And if you know anything about Minnesota Fats, he was a loudmouth dick. And every single game, that's what he was. And Willie just took it. He took it and he did the best he could under those circumstances. And it made with Howard Cosell doing the commentary game by game, he built up that aspect of the game of Minnesota Fats being this, creepazoid pool player who would do anything and go to any extremes to win. And it was very popular. I mean, there was tons of people that watched that. I didn't miss a Sunday of it for sure. So yeah, Jim, I got to agree with you. Although the representation of the game, we want to be cleaner. We want it to be more respected. We want it to be held in a higher esteem. What the average person who views things wants is excitement.
Yeah. That's what I'm going to say. What I'm going to say is I'm open to being wrong. I hope I am wrong. I like Earl Strickland. I mean, I loved his game. He's an American legend.
Chicago number is pretty good.
But what I'm going to say at this point, I'm open to being wrong. I really am. I would love to be wrong. What I'm going to say is Matchroom agrees with me because you don't see Earl Strickland in their events anymore. If he was that big of a draw and people wanted to see that stuff happen, he would be playing.
He's on their flyer.
Nate,
on their flyer for the U.S.
Well,
Open.
he is for the U.S. Open because they
exactly.
Yeah, but
Nate, Matchroom are not stupid. Matchroom kept Earl in their tournaments. He got another invite to the Masters. They did the sort of Legends Mosconi Cup where he was in there as well. They've kept him in there because they know that people tune in to watch him. He may be a pain in the ass for them to deal with.
When was the last time
he's going to bring viewers in? And if Matchroom didn't still realize and still didn't have an idea of the promotional aspect that Earl Strickland has, then he wouldn't get his own poster for the US Open. They're not giving 128 posters out for the US Open on their website. They're not putting on their Facebook page 128 players. He's been announced because they still know he's a massive name and a massive draw. Maybe they're sick to death of dealing with him, but they still know that on a promotional side, he still does a job.
I'm not arguing with any of that. What I'm saying is he's not doing his antics when he's on a poster. Yes, he's marketable, but there's no downside to putting him. What's the downside to putting him on a poster? There's no antics that he can get him in trouble with. The true test is whether or not they're going to give him an interview after he loses his first or second match. That's going to be the true test. And
can we bet it?
Yeah, I'll go yes. They will.
I'll bet yes they do too. 1,000%.
It's possible. I said, I'm open to being wrong. I'm just saying that he has not played in the Masters, the World 9 Ball, or any other events since 2018. I think was the last time he played.
Well, the reason he's not. Well, I can tell you the reason he's not been in the Masters or the Mosconi Cup is he's not good enough anymore. Simple as that. They're invitational events, and he's just not good enough. He can't hang with these guys anymore. So yeah, the US Open, anyone can play in the US Open. Like I said, I can play in the US Open. I mean,
that's my point. That's why I don't think it's that big of a deal that he's on a poster.
Well, I haven't seen a poster for Darren Appleton yet. I haven't seen a poster for.
That's because he's not playing. Remember?
Darren will be there. He's got a green card. He can still travel over.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
So Darren's not on it. I haven't seen one for Shane yet. Has Shane been put on? Has Sky been put on one? I've seen Federer's got one.
I know Sky's been on one. There's no way that Shane hasn't been on one.
Has Albin been on one? Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of players above Earl that could be on there, but it doesn't really matter. I'm just saying that he's not being. Matchroom have stopped inviting him to events, partly because he's hard to deal with, and partly because he's just not good enough anymore. but he's still got a marketable value to him. 100%.
Shane and Albin are on the actual Moscone, or are on the actual poster for the event itself. So
you know who, and you know who's not, or maybe I didn't see it right. Jason's not on it, and he won it a couple of years ago.
Well, I'm looking through the posters right now to see who's been on it, but
the official one with different players on it. Jason's not even on it, and he won it a couple of years ago. Bit weird. Okay.
Well, there's who's the total: Shane, Joshua, Albin, Corey.
Oh,
Jason.
They announced the players list while we've been on the air. You donkeys.
Jason is 2 on it.
Is he?
Billy Thorpe, Sky, Jason, Corey Duell, Albin, Fedor, and Shane.
Okay.
So now if I go through here,
no, the one I saw had Chris Robinson on it as well, but not Jason.
I mean, I'm scrolling down. I don't see that one. They got a poster for a lot of players. I mean, I can go through here and look at all of them, but
Ed Ladawa, yeah, Jason won it the year before. Jason won the last original US Open, and then Filler won the first Matchroom one. Yeah.
Was it 2016?
Mm-hmm.
2016?
No, 2017 it would have been. There's only been one Matchroom US Open, and they missed a year, didn't they? So they missed 2018, then they played 2019. 2017, I think Jason won it. Yeah.
You got to go check the posters. There's a lot.
I don't actually care. I actually have to go pretty soon because my next door neighbour is invited us round for drinks, and I'm going to empty his fridge. I hope you're watching. I'm coming to get your fridge. I'm coming for your fridge. Jimmy's got a little bit of a thirst on.
What time is it there, Jim?
It doesn't matter. It's after 5.
No.
And I'm on vacation now as well.
Little ale time.
Yeah, we can close it out. The only thing I hope I'm wrong. I mean, I would love to see Earl get more involved, but I would love to see him do it in a positive way, or at least not like a completely disrespectful to your opponent, saying that they're not a good player after getting shellacked 7-3 or whatever he got beat by Eklanti was. I just think there's a better way to do it. I think there's a charming aspect to it. I'm not arguing with that. I guess me becoming a promoter to the game makes me, I don't know, maybe I am a little bit more conservative as far as the marketing.
We're talking about Earl. That just shows how what he does. We're talking about Earl right now.
And I'll tell you one thing about Earl. I haven't talked to him extensively, but I've talked to him a few times. And if you're willing to actually sit and listen to him and filter out all the nonsense, in between it all, he does say some pretty genius things, and he does have some great ideas. If somebody was to actually spend the time to sit down with Earl and go through the 100 ideas that he has, they're going to find 1 or 2 in there that are actually absolute gems. You just have to take the time to listen to them and keep them off the table. You know. Yeah.
20 years ago, I sat and talked with Earl for an hour, and just me and him, nobody else around, empty room. And my whole attitude toward Earl changed after that. And I saw a different human being than I see on the pool table or any other.
He's a completely different personality.
He's a good dude away from the pool tables. Anytime he's away from pool and gambling, he's a good dude. I mean, he really is. I spent time around him as well. I mean, he is. He's a good dude. I'm only saying that I think that from the marketing side of it,
he does great commentary as well. He gives good comment. I quite like listening to him in the commentary as well. It's quite amusing. Yeah. Anyway, we said we were stopping. We've talked about Earl enough. Earl's not even watching.
I need more coffee, boys.
Earl's not watching this, and we've been praising him and telling him how awesome he is.
Yep. The only thing I'll throw on here on top of this is Albin was officially announced as the Moscone Cup. That's not a surprise because he's the world champion, so he's guaranteed in. But he was officially announced, and tickets are going on sale for the Moscone Cup supposedly next week. So I guess those are the other big announcements happening in the pool world. And
so it means that Alex and Carl can just choose 4 complete nobodies now, and we'll still beat you because we've got Alvin.
That's the way it ends the show.
We only need Alvin. We
I'm
only
not
need
going to
Alvin.
bet on us. I'll tell you that.
We only need Alvin.
Jim can be on the team, and you guys will still have a chance.
Funny.
He
Hey,
still lives.
what was that face post, Jim, where you had all these dollar bills stuck in your ears? And
I won a tournament at the weekend.
Oh,
So I was just thanking all my fellow competitors for all their the money that they registered with, which went out of my pocket.
that was funny. I like that.
It was like taking candy from a baby.
You had some lollipops stuck in your ears.
Yeah, I was just shoving it in everywhere. That's great.
All right, let's get out of here. All right, thanks
guys.
everybody for tuning in. Thanks everybody for joining me, and till next week. And just remember, we're doing Tony in I guess about 4 hours from now. We're going to be live with Tony Choen, so make sure to hang around the podcast
All right.
page for that. All right, take care, everyone.
Later.